A 60-minute segment that was meant to air here in the United States was pulled before anybody in the US could see it. However, it did air in Canada, and the segment literally described the torture of wrongfully deported immigrants. That should scare you!
This documentary from 60 Minutes pulled from the schedule just hours before it was set to air Sunday night.
The same water from our baths and toilets was the same water that we had to drink and survive on.
Through interviews with Venezuelan men, a critical look at the Trump administration's deportations to El Salvador's notorious CECOT prison.
He says the guards began savagely beating them with their fists and batons.
They don't want you to know that CBS60 minute CECOT segment, you can go watch it right now. Use your resources.
The most revealing part of this story got revealed once that the story was silenced. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss how narrative control is happening in front of our eyes every day.
And when Black people come out and say, we are living in a dictatorship, people say, no, you lie. No, because if it's not a dictatorship that America is under right now, why would DJT feel the need to control the media this much? Just asking, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about it. But before we go into it, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matkuna Esther. If you're new here, hi, welcome. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, like, comment, and share. And let me know what you think in the comment section. For my new people, I love you so much. My OGs, you're the best. Thank you so much. Now, why do I feel like I'm gossiping? Oh my God, I am not. Esther, be serious. It's a dictatorship. That's all I'm trying to say. It is a dictatorship. And Canadian people, yeah. Is this how they clock it? Yes, guys. I'm sorry, I'm a millennium, 30 years old. So I don't know if these kids are doing this or this. But I think this is the clocking it, yes. Canadians, you are clocking it. You clocked it. No, because you already done clocking DJT. Canadians sat there and they were like, ah. Hey, yo, brothers and sisters from the United States, have you seen this news? They were like, oh, wait a damn minute. No, oh, really? Here's the real tea. Yeah, this what's going on.
With them having to leak the 60 Minutes episode about that jail in El Salvador Trump is deporting everybody to, one thing is becoming pretty clear. We are either going to have the president or the news as we once knew it, but it cannot be both.
The most terrifying thing about these images coming out of CECOT, the notorious mega prison in El Salvador, isn't just the dehumanization. It's also how clean and modern this prison is made to look, because all I can think about is
this documentary from 60 Minutes pulled from the schedule just hours before it was set to air Sunday night.
The same water from our baths and toilets was the same water that we had to drink and survive on.
Through interviews with Venezuelan men, a critical look at the Trump administration's deportations to El Salvador's notorious CECOT prison.
He says the guards began savagely beating them with their fists and batons.
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
Despite being pulled by CBS, a portion of the story temporarily available to watch in Canada through Global TV's streaming app. Editor-in-Chief Barry Weiss explaining her decision to hold it in an internal CBS memo, citing the need to advance the story further and saying it failed to present the administration's argument. 60 Minutes correspondent Sharon Alfonsi defended her work to colleagues, calling it a political decision.
It's almost unheard of to pull a story at the last minute.
Journalism professor and former 60 Minutes producer Peter Klein says Weiss, appointed this fall, is pushing the agenda of her corporate bosses.
Normally, there's a firewall between the corporate side and the news side, and so she is essentially short-circuiting that.
This summer, CBS changed ownership when Skydance Media acquired parent company Paramount, now run by David Ellison, son of longtime Trump supporter Larry Ellison.
And CBS, I love the new owners of CBS. Something happens to them, though. 60 Minutes has treated me worse under the new ownership than they just keep treating me. They just keep hitting me. It's crazy.
If Barry Weiss thought she was burying this story, she's done exactly the opposite.
CBS News says Global, its Canadian broadcast partner, mistakenly published the segment. In the time it was up, some screen recorded it, sharing it to social media.
Very disturbing satellite images come from this place. And while there is no way to confirm exactly what we are seeing in them, we do know that prisons like this one in El Salvador have been making use of mass graves. Now, as a little bit of background, CECOT is a mega prison where tens of thousands of alleged gang members are being held without any type of trial. And they have recently been joined by hundreds of people from the United States, including, of course, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who even the Trump regime has admitted was sent there by mistake, leading to the horrifying precedent of sending absolutely anyone there. Now, the president of El Salvador has already been doing exactly that. The world's coolest dictator, as he calls himself, has already arrested over 1% of the entire population of the country, his way of supposedly eliminating gang violence. Now, in CECOT, in addition to prisoners being kept in bright fluorescent lights at all times, having their heads forcibly shaved, and sleeping on metal bunks with no pillows, no mattresses, no sheets, you should also know that there is no visitation. They have zero contact with any family. And because of this, their family does not know if they are alive or dead. But you should also know this. This is not El Salvador's worst prison. We should probably be recognizing this as a PR front. Again, being promoted for being very clean, very technical, when in reality, prisons like Izalco, La Esperanza, and Santa Ana are much dirtier and even more overcrowded, where skin diseases like scabies are rampant, where the prisoners cannot all lie down at the same time because they are so overcrowded, in addition to various types of horrific torture, which has led to many, many deaths. In far too many ways, we are seeing similarities to Auschwitz. I know people are tired of comparisons to the Holocaust. That doesn't mean that's not happening. And I personally wouldn't be surprised if we saw a smokestack from a crematorium either here or more likely in a much more secluded location, since what these satellite images have shown us are a large pile of something leaking something. Like in CECOT, the victims in Auschwitz were shaved. Like in CECOT, the victims in Auschwitz were dehumanized. Like in CECOT, the victims in Auschwitz were sent there en masse. Like in CECOT, they were packed into bunkers with no sheets or pillows, obviously, and without any due trial or process, obviously. Like in CECOT, there was the idea of cleanliness, an obsession with the idea of cleanliness. And this is what I really, really want to emphasize. Not real cleanliness, of course. Diseases were, in fact, rampant, but harsh measures like very extreme delousing, and of course, cleaning Europe of Jews, Romani, disabled people, and many, many other categories. But most of all, in the disposal of the bodies. There's a reason why it was called the showers, or sometimes baths for special operations. And this is something I'll come back to, and something I do really want to stress for those who know my channel and know that my focus is on architecture, design, and art. The man who designed Auschwitz to be as efficient as possible, Fritz Ertl, a Bauhaus graduate, who actually said he was applying the lessons he learned at the Bauhaus school in the creation of that death camp. Now, of course, there are other many ways that CECOT is different. We're allowed to look inside. In fact, they want us to look inside. They want us to be terrorized. But again, remember, only specific images. The Nazis only had specific images for us to look at as well, for example, in the Theresienstadt camp. So you should remember that we are not seeing the worst of what is happening, if you can believe that, as horrific as it already is. This would obviously be enough on its own to be just the word horrible. I have a lot more to say, but what I am drawing attention to right now is how much this looks like a factory, how much it looks like an airplane hangar, and how odd it is, actually, that the El Salvadorian government has also kept under wraps the names of the people that designed this, the way these contracts have happened. That in itself has been a highly secretive operation to build this. That is something that you should find very, very strange. I have a lot more to say. I have too much to say. I have things to say that I wish were not relevant. But I think that's where we're going to leave it.
So the orange man thought he was so slick. But he ain't. Now I understand why he wanted to ban TikTok so bad in America. No, because what do you mean if the Canadians did not leak it, it was never going to be shown in America? Does this teach you something? Doesn't this scream they show you on TV what they want you to see? And they want you to have a certain perspective about them? No, what do you mean? He is so scared of Americans seeing these things. Let's rewind. Just a few months ago, DJT started a narrative that you see these Mexicans are illegals, we need to kick them away. So ICE came into play. And meanwhile, ICE was busy taking people into jail. Some people were being shipped off. Some people were flown out of the United States. We all know El Salvador has been ringing so much in people's ears. You know why? Because DJT said, y'all need to be deported back to your home country. And tell me why. Most people got deported to El Salvador. Even these Mexicans were like, hey, yo, bro, we don't come from El Salvador. What do you mean you're going to deport people in El Salvador and Honduras? It doesn't make sense. During the same time, we start seeing bodies of people on the shores somewhere. And people are like, hold up, wait a damn minute. Isn't DJT transporting people into El Salvador? Why are we seeing bodies on the shores? Well, CBS said, we got you. We know exactly what's going on and we're going to show you. The living conditions in there are not good. Not only people are being kept in a country that's not theirs, they are being treated like they're not human beings. People are losing their lives. They are being molested. People are being beaten. People are being shaved off their hair. They are being treated like dogs. They are not even in their country. They are suffering. What do you mean you came to the United States to look for a good life and DJT deports you and jails you in a country that's not yours? No, because imagine being from Mexico and before you know it, you're in jail in El Salvador. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the man they voted for. That's the man they voted for. But regardless, it's still inhuman what DJT did to these people. And on top of that, he tried to cover it up. I think DJT thought he was so slick, but he ain't. And also, the problem is that right now the entire world has beef with DJT. They will literally air out everything he does. Not because the only country on planet Earth who likes the orange man is that country called Israel, where Netanyahu comes from. Only those ones, they will protect the orange man's image. Other countries, they're like, oh, wait a damn minute. What's going on? Done by who? DJT? Bingo. We're going to show it to you. Yeah. Now, Americans know what's going on. Yeah, because the Canadians were like, oh, you imposed tariffs on us. Did you do that to us? Okay, we're going to leak the information. So CBS shows the stuff in Canada. And DJT thought, yeah, it should stop there. Yeah, actually, it should stop there. Americans must never find out what's going on. Why would DJT stop CBS from showing that documentary if he was not scared? Well, his worst nightmares, I'm pretty much sure now they're coming back. Because best believe when American people find out something, they're going to share it and they're going to call out his BS. And right now, they're like, So mighty high of you out here calling for justice in Nigeria. Meanwhile, you have put people, human beings in El Salvador, and you're treating them like this.
So we know now that the Trump regime stopped that 60 Minutes episode on CECOT from being aired in our country, but it was aired in Canada, and now people are posting it all over online. And while thankfully people are going into much in-depth videos about the numerous horrible things going on there, I wanted to focus on one specific thing. One of the things they mention is how several of the prisoners there, and yes, they are prisoners, were told to do menial things that were painful, like kneeling for 24 hours straight. And if they moved, complained, did anything, they were sent to a type of solitary confinement. Bear in mind that only 3% of these people had actually been convicted of some kind of violent crime, and more than half of them had no criminal record whatsoever. But after they were sent to that special solitary confinement, not only were they constantly beaten and berated, but they were also constantly SA'd. You should know what that means by now. And I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but in that solitary confinement where people were beaten, debauched, and assaulted, what did they decide to call it? They called it the island. Take a moment to think of how disgustingly on the nose that is.
I just watched the CBS CECOT segment, the 60 Minutes segment. It was canceled in America, but it came out so late that it was still released in Canada. Canada's global TV. And I can say that I'm disgusted. This country uses human life as collateral damage. They devalue human life and actually do not care at all about human life. The experience that these people were going through at CECOT is absolutely heartbreaking to watch. And to think that there are people in this world who believe that others should be treated like that with no criminal history, not all of them, 50% of them. 50% of them had zero criminal background. And you think that they should be treated like that just because they come from another country is a heart-wrenching reality in the United States of America right now. But it's even more heartbreaking to see what those undocumented individuals went through. I don't think that being American means you get to mistreat other people. That is wrong, no matter how you try to frame it.
No wonder CBS didn't want you to think of a Venezuelan college student who fled repression, scheduled a legal asylum appointment, and entered the U.S. through the proper process. No criminal record, not even a traffic ticket. CBP called him a danger to society anyway, detained him for 6 months, no hearing, no judge, no due process, then deported him to El Salvador CECOT prison, where guards tied his hands and feet, shaved his head, and beat him with batons until his face bled and his tooth broke. The Trump regime sent over 250 Venezuelans to this torture facility between March and April alone. Legal entry, constitutional rights stripped, rendition of torture. This is what border security actually looks like because the cruelty is the point.
How was I supposed to know that you canceled the episode and then it was international news? No one called me. Seriously, Canadians don't give a crap about your administration. Oh, this? Vanity Fair. I just think it's so funny that you think we'd have any idea what you're doing down there. It reminds me of this scene from the Hunger Games. You know what? My mom is in the hospital right now and they're giving her weapons of mass destruction. You know, the good shit. Yeah, she's doing better. I just got back from a trip. Like, I don't have time to know what's going on in America. Fishing trip, yeah. Venezuela. You just come in here accusing me of all this shit like the whole world revolves around you. Oh, sorry, did you want some peace prize? Can we wrap this up? I gotta get to band practice. Oh, no, maybe. Trump blowing Bubba? We're new.
Okay, I get it. I understand why the Bone Spurs administration would be incredibly embarrassed about this CECOT 60 Minutes segment going through. I understand why Barry Wise looked at that segment and was like, maybe we shouldn't air this. Because that 60-minute segment that they tried to squash and keep from the American people was devastating to the Bone Spurs administration. Honestly, people should go to jail for what happened, starting with the puppy Grim Reaper Christy Nome herself. I have that 60-minute segment, and I'll be posting it at the end of this video in my YouTube and Substack. So if you don't follow me over there, go ahead and follow me over there, and you'll get the full 13-minute segment at the end of this video on those platforms. But basically, it goes through what happened to those people who were sent over there. All in all, there were about 252 people sent over to El Salvador. And we know from previous reporting that about 137 people were sent over there after a judge had placed a stay on that flight, telling the puppy Grim Reaper not to send them over there. She sent them anyway, completely defying the court order that she knew about and didn't care. Now, the segment talks to several people, but the main guy that they talked to was a guy from Venezuela. He was a college student, and Venezuela was being oppressive, so he was seeking asylum in the United States. Apparently, he had been locked up for 6 months in California as they were waiting to see if they would grant him asylum. But they have an 8-point grading system as to whether they think that you are a Venezuelan gang member or not. And it is completely without any educational background. They basically look and see if you have any tattoos. And if you have tattoos, that gives you 4 points right there. So they looked at this guy and they told him that he is a danger to society and they are basically going to deport him. Now, this guy had absolutely no criminal record. He never even got a parking ticket. But he was one of the ones sent to El Salvador. Now, the people who were sent to El Salvador thought they were just going to be sent back to Venezuela. They were not. They were sent to CECOT. And when they got there, they were chained hands and feet, made to shave their heads, made to declothe, and they were physically assaulted in that facility. Now, the thing about the tattoos and them using that as a way to see if they are a part of any gangs, that is based on complete ignorance, because Venezuelan gangs don't signify themselves with tattoos. American-based gangs, like MS-13 and all of those, they do, but Tren de Agua, they do not. So they are using assumptions and their own idiocy to decide if these people are criminals or not, while supporting the criminals in the White House and hiding the criminals in the E-Man files. But I digress. Now, when the Puppy Grim Reaper went to El Salvador and had that whole show of showing all of these tattooed gang members behind her, CBS 60 Minutes found out and verified that these people were not the migrants that were taken from the U.S. These people were actually people from El Salvador itself. And they were just put there as a photo op. The Puppy Grim Reaper didn't even go and talk to anybody from Venezuela that they took from the U.S. and put over there in El Salvador. They didn't even talk to them. The only thing that those people saw were the cameras. Everything that these people do is all a part of lies, propaganda, misinformation to justify how deplorable they are. And the deplorable people who support them will believe it hook, line, and sinker because they want to justify their own horrid way of being. And these people that were put in CECOT were kept sick and weak with the lack of food and clean water. They were made to stay in positions on their knees for 24 hours. And if they moved, they were put in what they called the island, which is basically solitary confinement on steroids. And this was done to 97% innocent people. Out of all of the people that they send to these third world countries, or they send to places like ECOT, only 3% of those people have a criminal record. And by criminal record, it could be something as simple as writing a bad check or running a traffic stop. 97% of the people that they are deporting to these countries that are known for human rights violations, have no criminal record at all. It is just based on where they are from and their skin pigmentation. And things like this are happening not only in El Salvador at CECOT, but it is also happening in other places as well. The Bone Spurs administration has dozens of contracts, some to the tune of millions of dollars, like the one he has in El Salvador, where the U.S., us, the taxpayers, are paying these countries millions of dollars to not only cart these people over there, but to also deprive them of basic human rights. But we don't have money for healthcare. We don't have money for tuition-free colleges. We don't have money for SNAP and food benefits for children. But we have money for that. We have money to send people to other countries, 97% of which have zero criminal record at all, to be abused and have their human rights violated. That's what you're okay with your money going to, as you support the pedo-in-chief. Now, the 252 people that were sent over there to CECOT from the United States were released in July and sent to Caracas, according to the 60 Minutes segment. And this was in exchange for 10 Americans that were also kept at CECOT. But honestly, the damage is done. These people, the vast majority of which had no criminal record at all, have been completely traumatized by this whole situation, just so the Bone Spurs administration can prove a point. It is absolutely sickening. Both them and the people who support them.